Hello and welcome back to the Only One Formula YouTube channel. Today I want to do a little quick video on my predictions for the 2024 Formula One season. So testing is in the bag and now it's on to the first race of the year in Bahrain. So following up from testing, I want to do a quick video on where I think everyone's going to be and where they're going to finish at the end of the year in the championship. So I've placed everyone from 20th right up to 1st. And as a little side note, at the end of the year, we are going to review this video and we're going to see how close my predictions were. Now, I'm an avid Formula One fan. However, my wife, she is absolutely not. She watches them only because I do, and half the time she's not even paying attention to the race. But I've managed to get her in on the joke, and she has also ranked the Formula One drivers from 20th to 1st. So at the end of the season, we're going to do a review video. My wife's going to be present, and we're going to see who's got the closest result. You're going to get 2 points for the correct result, and you're going to get 1 point for the closest result. So let's just get straight into it and discuss who is where. So starting out in last place, my wife and I have both predicted Logan Sargent. So sorry, Logan, but I don't see a huge improvement coming for Logan. Even if the Williams has upgraded their car, I think Alex Albon is the star in that team, and I don't think Logan will make a huge improvement. So unfortunately, he is last. So my wife, she predicted the same. So 19th, I have predicted K-Mag. Now, again, somebody's got to come in 19th, but the Haas car last year, tyre degradation, it just fell away in races. So I'm sticking with K-Mag on that, and apologies to K-Mag for that. But my wife, she has put in 19th place Zhou Guanyu for the Alfa Romeo. Well, Kick Sauber team this year, or Stake Sauber team this year. Does anyone really know which team it is we're going to be saying the name of? They haven't showed huge promise in testing, neither has the Haas. So I know Haas have been heavily focused on long runs to try and get rid of that Achilles heel they had last year. So we'll see how it turns out, and that's that. So following on, 18th, I've placed Hulk. Again, similar scenario, Haas, tyre wear. I just don't see the car being a huge improvement from last year. But I do think Hulk outpaces K-Mag. My wife, she's placed K-Mag in there in 18th place, so a similar sort of result there. 17th, I've given that to Zhou Guanyu. Again, I just think the Haas, the Williams, and the Sauber Stake, Sauber something or other are all going to be at the back of the grid, I'm afraid, fighting for the wooden spoon. So my wife, she's placed Hulkenberg in that same brackets. He's 17th for her. And I've given 16th place to Alex Albon. Let's say I think he outperforms the car. Don't see the car being a huge improvement, but I think Alex squeezes 16th again, or squeezes 16th this year. And yeah, I can't add much more than that. My wife, she's placed Yuki Tsunoda in there. I had to disagree. I think the RB is looking like quite a strong car, but she doesn't have a lot of confidence in Yuki himself. So she says he may struggle this year with a full season of Daniel Ricciardo against him. So 15th, I've given Bottas that place. Again, the Sauber team, it's going to be a difficult year. I think he outpaces Zhou Guanyu, but I think in the Sauber, it's going to be a tough year. My wife, she has also matched me with Bottas, so that would be even scores if we're both correct. 14th, I've given to Gasly. Again, Alpine didn't show really any promise whatsoever from testing. They just haven't shone. I think Alpine's lost a little bit at sea, so we'll just have to see how the season unfolds, whether it's a slow start and they start to develop correctly, but Alpine I wasn't impressed with in testing, so Gasly slipped into 14th. And my wife, she's credited Albon with 14th, so she's given Albon a bit of credit. She's not a fan, She's not a fan of Albon, but she's credited him with 14th, thinking that he will do quite well in Matt Williams. It's very, very possible. It's very, very possible. Albon he's strong on his day, so I hope he does well. 13th, I've got Ocon in there, as does my wife. She's got Ocon in there. So again, a similar scenario. We think that the Alpine is potentially not a very strong car. I think Ocon will finish ahead of Gasly, but we'll see how the season plays out. 12th, I've given to Yuki. I think that's as good a result as Yuki can hope for. The RB platform there is quite good, but you've got Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, and Aston Martin fighting for that top 10 driver positions in each race. So I think a 12th place would be a strong year for Yuki, and see it goes from there. And my wife, she has given that to Stroll, so she's not got much hope for Stroll in the Aston Martin. So again, let's just see who's right, and we'll go from there. 10th place, no, sorry, excuse me, 11th place, I've given it to Stroll. So yeah, again, I think he's going to fall just short of that top 10 in the driver's standings this year. Let's say the top 5 teams, Lance being in one of those teams, but I just don't think he's got the caliber or the consistency to do that for the entire year. So we'll see how that plays out. And my wife, she's placed Daniel Ricciardo in there, which again would be a strong result for Ricciardo to come in 11th. Again, just it would be the best of the rest if you can say the top 5 are who they are. So yeah, Daniel Ricciardo, 11th place for my wife. 10th, I've given to Ricciardo. I think he just squeezes inside the top 10. I think some consistency, because Daniel Ricciardo is generally pretty consistent, and I think he will bring home some good points for AlphaTauri. Well, RB, Visa, Cash App, Red Bull thing. Does anyone else know what they are called as well? So I think he will bring some strong points home for RB. So we'll see how that goes. My wife, she's been a bit more confident, and she's given Gasly 10th place. So again, not a huge fan. She just sort of knows who they are. She hasn't looked at any testing results or anything like that. So we'll see how it plays out. She might have picked perfectly. 9th, I've given it Piastri. I think he has the potential to do more than that. But I think if he was to bring home 9th place this year, that means he's in consistent points. That means he's scoring well. So again, fingers crossed for Piastri. I think he's a good kid, and I think he could do well. My wife, she has placed Alonso in 9th place, so fairly hedging her bets that Aston Martin will be the 5th best team on the grid this year. So let's go from there. I think Alonso's got more in him, so I've given him 8th place in the championship. So we'll see where he finishes up. I think he's very consistent and he's very motivated. So I think on his day, Alonso scores good points. 6 podiums out of 8 races last year. So I think all Alonso's position in the championship, like everyone else's, is massively affected by the team's development of the car. So fingers crossed for Alonso. Everyone's an Alonso fan, even if you're not. So let's see if he can get home some good points. My wife, she's placed Piastri in 8th. So we've got a split there, 8th and 9th for Piastri. So given McLaren potentially the 4th best team on the grid. So it's exciting. We're all super, super excited to see how the season goes. And yeah, we can't wait. 7th, I've given to Sainz. I think with the bombshell news that Lewis Hamilton is taking his seat for 2025, I think Sainz has to be motivated this year. I think he does, to show his skill set for any other team that would consider him to be a candidate. But I think the development of the car gets away from him this year. I think he won't have such an input. I think Charles Leclerc gets favoured, which it makes complete sense for Ferrari. Charles Leclerc has signed on for a long-term deal, so we're not really going to take on board Sainz's feedback and what Sainz wants from the car. So I think it's going to be a tough year, but I think he will score some decent points here and there. My wife has placed Lando Norris in 7th place. She's fairly confident of that, so potentially nudging McLaren from the 4th into the 3rd, depending best car on the grid. So let's see how let's see how they go this year. I think the McLaren, if they start strong, they have the potential to finish way better than they did last year. I've given 6th place to Russell. Again, I think a tough year for Russell, but I think the potential there is for Russell to do more. I think similar to Sainz, I think Mercedes will stop listening to Lewis as the season goes on. They'll stop answering Lewis's requests from what he wants from the car. However, I think teammate tension is going to be tough. Lewis is a phenomenal driver, and he's never going to want to go down without a fight. And I think George is going to try a little too hard to prove himself. So I've only given him 6 in the championship. So my wife has placed Sainz in 6th place. So again, we differ here. So let's see who gets the best points there. 5th place, I have given to Perez. If he has a season anything like last year, Perez is gone. He is gone from Red Bull, and I don't think anyone will argue that. I think Daniel Ricciardo comes along and collects that seat. But if Perez does a full season, which there could be a prediction in there that Perez and Daniel Ricciardo switch mid-season, if Perez does a full season in Formula 1, I don't think he gets as off lightly as he did last year to collect 2nd place. He had some shocking races, and he still collected 2nd. This year, I don't think he's so fortunate because I think the competition behind Red Bull will be much higher, and I don't think he gets away so easy. My wife has given George Russell 5th place, so a slightly better position than I gave George, but she does work for Mercedes, so she wants to see George do better than he can. 4th place, I have dropped Lando Norris into 4th place. I believe Norris has the consistency and the speed, and if the car's right for him, Norris will come home in 4th place. I'd really like to see it. It'd be nice to see another Briton doing really well in Formula 1. And Norris is just an entertaining guy to watch. So fingers crossed for Norris. Let's see what he can do this year. And my wife, she has placed Lewis Hamilton in 4th place. Not for any rhyme or reason. She just thinks he's going to finish in 4th. I've given 3rd place to Lewis Hamilton. I think, again, tough year for Lewis. The car's going to get away from him on the development side. But he's far too consistent, Lewis. 240 points in 2022, 235 points in 2023. The consistency's there with Lewis. It always will be, regardless of the car. So Lewis picks up a 3rd place in the championship this year. My wife, she has given it to Charles Leclerc. Likes Charles Leclerc, is a fan, wants Charles Leclerc to move to Mercedes, but we don't see that happening anytime soon with a long-term Ferrari deal. 2nd place, I've gifted to Charles Leclerc. I think he squeezes it this year. It was a close battle with Perez last year, but he lost out. This year, I think he does it. I think Ferrari have a slightly better platformed car. I think it's going to react better to developments. I think it's going to behave better in the race scenarios, and I think his race pace will improve as a result. Arguably, probably hard to argue against Charles Leclerc being one of the quickest drivers in one lap, an outright pace. He's just very, very unfortunate with the race pace dropping off. I don't think that was his issue last year. I think it was the car's issue with the anti-dive and the anti-squat sort of scenario, and the car being a bit skittish. So if Ferrari give him the right platform this year and follow the right development path, I think Charles Leclerc comes home in 2nd place, no issues. My wife has hedged her bets massively, and Perez is her 2nd place in the championship, similar to last year. And 1st place for us both, which I'm pretty sure all of you watching this will agree, is Max Verstappen. It's Max. We know it's going to be Max. He is a ferocious racer, and he is never, ever going to give up until he can't fight anymore. So I think Max brings home his 4th world title this year. I think it's an easy 2 points for both of us. And yeah, I don't think anyone else would disagree with that. My one wild prediction for the year, as I've already mentioned, is Daniel Ricciardo and Perez switch seats halfway through the season at some point, depending on how the first half goes for Perez, but I think it will happen. And new race winner, I think Lando Norris finally collects a win this year. I think he deserves it. And I think the McLaren car is there. I'm going to predict that McLaren win. I'm going to give them Hungary. I think they'll take Hungary this year. George got his first pole there in 2022, so I think it's a bit of a wild card track for everyone to sort of collect stuff. So I'm going to give Lando Norris first win in Hungary. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. If there's anything you disagree with or anything that you think is completely outrageous, please subscribe and don't forget to like the video. And we'll see you on the next one.